in other areas besides dating? I mean, just that confidence, because people have been so isolated, and now to actually go out, even feeling self-conscious, how do you get beyond that and just go out? What suggestions are there?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. Well, as I mentioned, I have this charisma quotient formula, and the outside I call your style intelligence, right? That's what we were talking about before in the ways of, what you're wearing, your first impressions, your body language, all of that impact just how you even interact with the world, right? So that's the first thing. The second is your emotional intelligence, how we connect through vulnerability, authenticity, how we express ourselves, how resilient we are, and how we feel about our self-worth. And then it's your social intelligence, how we manage interpersonal communication. And yes, that includes flirting. So as you know, flirting is a big part of my business. I actually have a flirt workshop coming up, as I mentioned. And it's all intertwined in ways of just interacting with people. And you're right, the pandemic didn't help. So even if you were an extrovert before, I think all of our social muscles got a little atrophied. And so I think people just feel rusty and dusty when it comes to just even saying hi to people. So no matter what program that people are in or how I help them, that is one of the things I'm always teaching is what are some skills that you need to feel more confident? Is it your body language? Is it just practicing making eye contact, smiling and saying hi in the grocery store? Is it what you're wearing? Is it your energy and how flirtatious and open you are? Is it the conversation skills? And that's another big part because you were asking how can people interact? I do so much teaching around how to create a meaningful conversation where people want to move on with you. I remember meeting you when we were at that conference together.
Yeah.
It was memorable. Why? Because of, well, first of all, you look fantastic. And I loved the way that you were dressed and your energy, but it was our conversation. It was the stories that we shared and the feelings that we had. And I always say to people, it's not about the facts that people are interested in you. It's about the feeling they have when they're with you. And so people get caught up in spewing facts back and forth, or on a date, it becomes a Q&A session. Well, it's so boring. That's why people come back and say, oh, I didn't feel the chemistry, but the reality is when you just have a nonsensical kind of whimsical, fun conversation that has lots of stories and emotions, that's a better conversation that is going to create that connection.
Yeah, definitely. So, okay, let's talk about body language first.
Yeah.
Enlighten us on body language.
Yeah. So what's fascinating is that 93% of communication is nonverbal. So again, what you say isn't even as important as how you show up. And in those first impressions, people are making judgments and assumptions based on two things. And this is research based. This isn't me just saying this. One is the clothes that you wear, and the other is the attitude or the body language that you have. And so a lot of times, people don't realize how they're coming across. I do a lot of infield work where I'll go out with people and I help them interact or help them flirt. I now have these dating retreats where we're constantly practicing. And what I see out there is that, a lot of people are thinkers, they're high achievers, they're thinking about what to say, yet they're not in their body, or they look stiff, or they look tense. What is written on our face, the movement in our body tells 1,000 words. I do a lot of work, and I do that. I have this whole body signal system that I actually teach in my flirt workshops. And it really is paying attention to different body parts and practicing that so that you are seen differently. Because again, you could be the best person in the world, but if you're not marketing yourself, then love will pass you by, or even just connections.
So are there things people listening, because everybody probably can't, and of course I'll have links to everything, and look at Kimmy's social media because she posts a lot of this on there and it's very fun to watch. But are there things that somebody listening could practice doing? Because I've said to people, they're like, no, I'm happy. And I feel like saying, well, tell your face. But that's me. Or they'll say they're feeling a certain way and you're like, I can't tell that from looking at you at all. I would not say that unless it's somebody I could say it to. I'm pretty blunt. I am pretty blunt, and I will go directly to somebody. I don't go around to people. Are there tools or tricks that you could give to some people listening?
Oh my God. Yes. And I love that you were blunt, with people like that. And I think people appreciate that because it's hard to see yourself. I mean, that's the first thing is when I talk about body language, a lot of times people don't have that awareness until I ask the question and they're like, well, come to think of it, I'm not sure how I come across. And one of the things or the first steps that I'll say about body language to practice is that it's more about your fears around it. So, look at the reason why you're not putting yourself out there or why you're not being open or smiley or connecting, in that way. Is it because maybe you've been hurt? And as a therapist, I always like to look at people's history because it's not one size fits all. There might be a ton of fear. If you've been abused or if you've had some really kind of toxic relationships, it might be hard to make eye contact and be all smiley when you're truly scared inside. It could be part of your upbringing. Maybe you also you were in a home and a cultural background where body language wasn't like maybe reinforced or accepted. I coached somebody actually in Shanghai, and it was really fascinating going over there because, no one made eye contact. It wasn't even polite, so there's different like cultural nuances to people's upbringing. So you have to appreciate your own background and what is preventing you from getting out there. So that's the first thing. The second thing is it takes practice, practice, practice. It's like a muscle. It's like going to a gym. So if you are not used to smiling, if you're not used to making eye contact, then just take that little transaction and practice over a period of time and do that in a way that is almost like gamified. This is what I do with my clients, as I do in all my programs. I'm like, forget about just approaching a woman or a man. Let's just start with the eye contact. So starting small is going to add up to the bigger win, and it's more digestible, and it'll build your confidence when you actually have success in that small transaction, right? And so you just go to the grocery store and say, okay, I'm going to make eye contact with 5 guys every single day, 5 days, and just see what happens, and then journal about it, And I think that's the name of the game, because really what confidence is. And I love your show focusing on this. And especially if you're a high achiever and are a perfectionist, it's hard, like, because you'll be frozen doing some of these things because you'll want to shoot for the outcome. I want to just flirt, right? Like, it's like, okay, well, what are the many steps that you need to take to get there? And so that's why people who are high achievers often stay frozen in this area, because if they feel like they're going to fail or not do something right or they're not good enough, they'd rather not do it at all. But this way, you have these mini wins along the way. It'll add up to that success that you're going for. I think when you do that, like, it's really kind of pulling in and looking at, all right, well, I had some wins here. What happened? How did I feel? And then you up the ante. It's like, okay, now I'm going to make eye contact, smile, and say hi, and just keep going until you finally start feeling better. And it will snowball into other areas of your life. Like, it's not just about the eye contact. It's not just about twirling your hair. It's the kind of little things that you can do to build that
twirling your hair, does that work?
It does.
Wait,
oh my God, it totally does.
What?
Oh yeah.
Are you
And
kidding?
I'm not kidding. And research shows that actually for both men and women, this is interesting. Women will play with their hair when they're interested in a guy subconsciously, but you can also do it on a conscious level. So if you're just like kind of doing that, it's really sexy to a guy. And
No
guys
way.
will actually like shuffle their hair or kind of play with their hair when they're interested in a woman. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes. Okay, what else? That is great. So does it still work? Does it still work when you're married? I'm going to be like, hey.
Oh, totally. Yes, you can.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it. Try it on your hubby.
Yeah, I will tonight. Are you kidding? Absolutely. Yeah.
You got to say it with a little head tilt, a little smile, and say, hi, honey, or hi, babe, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Really respond to that. It's fun. I mean, there's so many like little tricks and things about body language that you would be astounded with that are so impactful and effective with the opposite.
Okay, what else? That was great. I cannot believe that. I never knew that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.